from the Drew Estate Cigar Studio in Boston, Massachusetts. Welcome to the Spare Notes series with your hosts, Matt Tobacco and William Cooper.
And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the Spare Notes series. We're finally back. We are finally back. It has been quite a while. I know a lot of people were asking where we were at, but we're here. It's been a long several weeks, and there's been a lot of reasons that we've been a little extended on our hiatus, I guess. Which we'll talk about a little bit, but it's good to be back. We're finally all set up. I'm in my new studio now. I don't know. It's around here. I don't have my Drew Estate backdrop because I got it misplaced somewhere when I moved. So not everything has been discovered yet. So sorry about that. I don't know what happened. So I'm still trying to find that. It's in a bin somewhere. So just ignore that for now. To Drew Estate, I'm sorry. I'm moving. I spoke to Tom yesterday. He knows the kind of hell that I've been in. So it's been a lot. But anyway, we're here, and I'm with Kevin and Mitchell, actually. So it's a Smokin Tabacco team night, which is awesome. Coop's not here because he's down in Tampa driving Jose Blanco around, being a chauffeur. Which is always kind of cool. But it's nice because we had some serious technical issues on our Wednesday night show, which was our Cigar of the Year show, which I apologize for. Unfortunately, the production side of it did not go the way I wanted it to. But, I did the best I could, and I'm still not happy with it. But I feel like the redeeming factor is I have my team here tonight with me without Coop. Not that I wouldn't want Coop here, but we can maybe continue some of that conversation in depth tonight on the show, as well as several other things that have just come up. But, boys, it's good to see you. Thanks for being here. How's everybody doing?
Doing good, man. No offense, but, I would almost rather switch places with Coop and be in Florida driving the professor around than out here in, ice cold Las Vegas.
Who wouldn't? You know what I mean? Who wouldn't want to be Coop right now?
Definitely.
Dude gets to live it up.
It's also freezing cold here.
And here.
Let me see. It's been.
Yeah, but you live in Canada. You live in Canada.
Yeah.
So, if it doesn't hit zero, that's normal. For here, if it's
the
thing is 20s here.
Vancouver's a warm part of Canada. Usually for Celsius, we don't go below zero that often, and it got to minus 12 Celsius, which is about 10 degrees Fahrenheit. That's very cold. Freedom. That's very cold. What is it out in Vegas right now?
It is in the 30s. It's gonna drop into the 20s tonight, which, for here, that's that's equivalent to I don't know, 40 degrees below zero anywhere else.
Yeah.
Now, in the great state of New Hampshire, where I am, it's 35, so I'm right there around where Kevin is. I also live in a state now that touches Canada, which is an interesting fact.
Ooh.
Yeah, New Hampshire touches Canada. Yeah, it does. Yeah. I mean, I live nowhere near there. That's still several hours away, but I live in a state that touches Canada.
It touches Quebec.
Yeah. Or, as I'm told it's pronounced, Québécois.
Well, Québécois is what French people speak.
Yeah.
So you guys both live in states that basically frequently have non-life-sustaining temperatures.
Yeah. My state's a lot more free than his state, though.
Definitely.
Well, no argument.
The lack of freedom here is
you have no freedom.
Coursing through our veins.
We have live free or die. That's what we have. That's our state motto. We're the Granite State, the live free or die state. So proud to be
Vegas is battleborn, baby.
That's true. Vegas is, Nevada. Nevada's another,
Nevada's battleborn.
Yeah, the Silver State. Mm-hmm. I live in the Granite State. You live in the Silver State. So I came from the Bay State. Ooh, Cape Cod. So I'm so over that. Fucking Cape Cod. I was never a Cape Cod guy anyway, but that's Massachusetts, the Cape. Ooh, I could care less. We have Hampton Beach. It's good enough. So anyway, but yeah, so I'm in my new studio. You guys probably, it doesn't really look any different to you because it all looks the same this way, but it's yeah, I'm not in a garage studio anymore. I'm in a finished room studio.
Is
now,
it warmer?
Oh, it's warm. It's
Is the ventilation good?
Way better ventilated. I also have to, take a moment to thank Mitchell for this because Mitchell actually, we had this conversation before I even moved in, and he said, "Oh, I looked into this," and he recommended the fan system that I actually went and bought and put in here for my ventilation. So I have to give credit where it's due, and I have to say thanks to Mitchell because he gave me the recommendation on a specific system, and that's the one I went with, and I bought 3 of them. So I got 3 of those up in the ceiling here, and they suck all my smoke out, and it fucking works great too. I got no leakage. It's awesome. It's not smoky in here. I mean, Nicole and I were in here together last night, smoking together, watching documentary. I mean, blowing smoke. Nah, nothing. It was nice.
Nothing in the house. That's awesome.
Not even in there. It wasn't even cloudy in here. It was fucking nice, and I didn't even have them cranked up all the way. And it's it's nice.
Well, me and Kevin, maybe we'll fly over and come join you guys.
You should. We got plenty of space. It'll be great
in July when it's warm.
Yeah, you don't come here now.
No,
it'll feel like Mitchell for you. It'll feel like home. Kevin, it'll feel like you're going to see Mitchell. So, but no, I'm excited. It's great to be back. I know people were asking us, what's going on with Spare Notes, and with the holidays, and I was moving and getting all settled in, and then we get to the new year, and then Mitchell's schedule drastically changed, and not that he's always on this show anyway, but just still, and then Coop takes time off at the end of the year, like in December and January, to do his Cigar of the Year stuff and just to take a break. So, Coop wasn't really around, so everyone's just kind of doing something different. But we're back now, and it's good to be here, and we have plenty of things to talk about. Don't worry. It's
lists upon lists.
Yeah, I mean, most of it will probably be on the list, but I'm sure there'll be other things filtered in there. But for those of you who have been keeping tabs and following along on our regular programming on Wednesday nights on the Smokin Tabacco Show, we went through our top 25 countdown and crowned our 2023 Cigar of the Year winner, which for those of you who... Let me see if I can do this. There he is. Oh, I think they're all gone now. Damn. Oh, that's too bad. Why aren't they still loaded?
We had some photos from that night, right?
Yeah, I'm looking for the photo tray. I thought it was all still in here. I mean, I can go here manually, but I'm going to bring it up on the screen. So, our Cigar of the Year for 2023 is the Davidoff Anniversario number 1. This was a limited edition re-release that came out earlier this year. 10-count box. This particular one also came with the wooden tube for carrying the cigars in. This, obviously, coming from the Anniversario blend, which is a blend that I'm sure most, if not all, pretty serious or regular cigar smokers know. Even the casual cigar smoker has probably come across the Anniversario. Legendary blend from Davidoff. It was hard to put the list together, and the boys are going to chime in here in a sec, but and they'll tell you that as well. But this cigar was one of those cigars where it was hard. I mean, Kevin, you and I talked a lot about this particular cigar too. I mean, this cigar was it just fired on every cylinder. It was fantastic. Our number 2 cigar of the year was the Arturo Fuente Don Carlos Eye of the Bull, which is a seriously great cigar. Those two were tough, but ultimately this is the one that took the cake. And I have to say, I was really excited, and I was surprised that Coop didn't give me shit for this cigar. I don't know why. I was like, I don't know, Coop might give me a hard time on this one. And he was like, no, I mean, I knew you guys were big on that. And he's like, no, good list. So, which I was waiting for but no, I didn't get it. So, but Kevin, I know you've smoked a bunch of these as well. I mean unfortunately, I couldn't get you on the broadcast for whatever reason the other night. We were having some serious connectivity issues, but now that we're here, let you
You
chime
kicked
in.
your
Of
boy to
course.
the curb.
I didn't kick anybody to the curb. The problem was I was feeling under the gun. I was being pulled in multiple different directions. There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that people don't know about. So, just so everyone knows, let me set the record straight. There was a lot of behind the scenes stuff that people don't know about, and it just, man, I was up against the wall, and I'm like, I gotta make this fucking show happen. I don't know what I'm gonna do. So, but I knew that this show was coming. So this is the time. Kevin, like I said, I know you've smoked this cigar quite a lot, so I'm gonna let you chime in on the winner here, because I know you didn't really get to on Wednesday night.
I appreciate it. I mean, I've always been a big fan of the Anniversario #1 from Davidoff, and the first time that I lit one of these, I was blown away by it. It was hard for me to give, I guess, props and a Cigar of the Year nomination to technically what is a line extension. But in my opinion, this version of the cigar is so much better and leaps and bounds better than any of the other versions of that cigar that it was a no-brainer. It's no secret. It's no secret. I mean, I'm a big Davidoff fan to begin with.
Right.
I went through a health battle a few years ago, and when I got diagnosed cancer-free, the Davidoff Royal Release was our celebratory cigar, and damn, these are literally like right there with that cigar as far as quality and performance. I mean, it's just outstanding.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I'll kind of piggyback onto what you said last night. Just by chance, I happened to be in the mood for an Anniversario #3, which I have a box of. And I said, I'm going to smoke one of these just because I was just in the mood for it. And I was sitting there smoking it, and I started thinking, I'm like, oh yeah, the Anniversario. And that cigar was fantastic. I mean, the #3, I mean, that's a cigar that's, I would say, arguably, in the Anniversario, that's probably the most popular size.
It's a classic.
It fired on all sides. I mean, it was perfect. There was nothing negative you could say about it. I mean, I would try to, and I think most people know I would. You just can't. It was everything I wanted. It was everything I expected, and I burned it all the way down to the end. None of it was wasted. Flawless.
Well, my thing with the 2023 limited edition, I mean, I'm not one. I mean, people that know me, you know me well. I'm not big on big cigars. I mean, it's not a really large ring gauge, but it's just, I mean, it's a beast.
Long.
I mean, it's a 2.5 hour, 2 3/4 hour, maybe even a 3 hour cigar. I think the last one I smoked was
I'd be getting
this
3+
side of
hours
3
out of that.
hours.
Yeah, Mitchell's a slower smoker.
And every puff, I mean, it develops all the way through. It doesn't really transition a whole ton. There's a lot of similar flavor in it, but the flavor in it from start to finish is rock solid. It's good flavor delivery. It is amazing performance, no touch-ups. I mean, to be able to sit and smoke a cigar for almost 3 hours and not have to set fire to it as a touch-up at all, I mean, that says a lot about the quality of cigar to begin with. And then when you have solid flavor delivery through, I mean, if you're not a fan of, like, what we'll say, like the classic Davidoff tobacco, you may not like this cigar. But
what's a huge point that you brought up is that consistent through the entire thing. Like, I think sometimes, like, people are like, oh, I'm looking for those transitions, like this, that, and like sometimes, like, those transitions don't really all work together that well, and they don't actually add to the cigar. But when a cigar is consistent and, like, through the entire thing, like first, second, third, I find that's almost harder to find, like consistent but still really complex and full flavored the whole time. That always blows me away. I find a similar experience in like the Atabey personally, is like the consistency of the entire smoke, but from start to finish you're like, wow, that was, every puff is so similar, but like the nuances are there. And unfortunately I haven't been able to smoke that Davidoff yet, but yeah, it's I've heard amazing things.
Yeah, the complexity is up there, and for me, I typically will get bored if a cigar is one dimensional, doesn't really transition from one to the other, unless the flavors are, there's a good flavor hook. It really kind of grabs my palate, grabs my attention, and it's just, you just want more and more and more and more, which this cigar does. You smoke it down literally to the cap to where you're burning your fingers, and you're still not done with it after almost 3 hours. That's a award-winning cigar for sure.
For sure. What about number 2?
My only complaint with number 2 is that it was just small. I mean, I still got an hour out of it for a 4-inch long cigar, which a lot of people were calling bullshit on, because they were saying, there's absolutely no way you're going to get an hour out of a 4-inch long Don Carlos. But I did. It's a slow burner.
So, when people say things like that, even for me, it's always an interesting point, because what I find is my first half of the cigar, I actually smoke much faster than the second half, because I take the conscious effort almost to make smaller, more, I wouldn't say necessarily more meaningful puffs, but like, because the ash is so much closer to your mouth and you can feel that heat so much more, you don't need to puff on it super hard. You don't need to be taking these 2, 3, 4 puffers, these big long drags on it, just a little bit, and you get the whole ember lit up and you get the full flavor. And like you said, if it's got well aged, well fermented, good tobacco in there, it will burn slowly, but it will stay combustible. And obviously that was the case with the Don Carlos.
Yeah, and it doesn't get, if you take your time with it, it doesn't get hot. And
Exactly.
I definitely feel if you get a cigar too hot, it definitely changes how it smokes. It changes the flavor. It typically will make it harsh and bitter. With this one, I mean, it's my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the same blend as the other Don Carlos. It's just a different shape, made special size for the Eye of the Bull. With that being said, I had the ability to taste the wrapper leaf more in this size, in the Eye of the Bull size, than any of the other ones, even the smaller ring gauge, which was unique. So I don't know what it was about that size that allowed that, but it definitely gave the wrapper experience if you have the ability, with your palate, to taste that.
I felt like on the Eye of the Bull, it's not the thinnest ring gauge of that cigar that I've ever smoked, because I have smoked the Phantoms, the Lancero iterations, where obviously you can really taste the wrapper. But I found, I mean, the Don Carlos blend is perhaps one of my favorite blends out of everything that Arturo Fuente makes. The number 2s, the Presidentes. I mean, multiple sizes. I mean, I love them. So I've smoked a lot of them, many different sizes over the years, and you can taste that Cameroon. But I felt that even for something that's not the thinnest ring gauge, I felt like you could taste a lot of that wrapper very, very clearly on the Eye of the Bull, and it was nice. It was really nice. I really liked it that way, because I really like that authentic Cameroon wrapper that's on that cigar, and to really let it, stand out and shine, I thought was great. So I liked how small it was, because it's fun to have. It's nice to have a fun little size like that. But it performed well. It performed better than some of the other Don Carloses that are already out there, that are obviously in more supply. And the Cameroon tobacco really shined in that blend. I mean, there's a lot of things I can say about it. Seriously, I mean, it was a serious contender for number 1 as well. I mean, like I said, the 1 and 2. I mean, it was we were back and forth. I mean, that one was just as good. I mean, so it earned its spot easily at the top of that list. So I mean, very exciting for those two alone. Then you get to number 3, which I'm actually smoking tonight, and that was the Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust Mikke Rita Black, the Papa Saka, the smaller size in the Mikke Rita Black. We saw the Saka Khan last year. This year we saw this. This is a cigar, and boys, I know you guys know this. You've both smoked it. This was a cigar everyone also kept talking about going into the end of the year list season. You know, like, oh, Papa Saka, it's going to do good. It's going to do good. And I think Dojo gave it number 1 on their main list.
They did.
I don't think anyone else gave it number 1 yet, but I know it's been on almost every other list I've looked at, and it's been
There was
towards
another
the
list
top.
that I saw that somebody had it as number 1, and I can't remember. It wasn't like a big name mainstream cigar media list, but somebody did have it as their number 1, which surprises me because with all the chatter and everything that happened at a cigar, I was actually surprised that there weren't more people that had it as number 1. I mean, a lot of people had it in their top 5.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and deserving so. I mean, that was an outstanding cigar.
Yeah, I mean, this cigar has. Look, and Kevin, this might be a good time to pause and go on a slight tangent because we didn't really get to have this discussion on the Wednesday night show. Part of the thing about doing this list, and as a team internally, we talked a lot about this for a lot of the year as more and more stuff was coming out. This was a year that had a lot of cigars with a lot of hype, that were coming out. Then they came out, and then they did not live up to the hype that we all kept hearing about, talking about. It was like, I mean, it's not bad, but
yeah, it was definitely weird because typically when you have the hype cigars, they live up to the hype.
Now
then you're having where the 3 of us are in a meeting and we're throwing punches to try and pick because all 3 of us want one of the we all 3 have a different number 1. So how do you pick? It wasn't quite as difficult this year because, like you said, there was some of the cigars that typically would be up on that list that just, wow, really?
Yeah.
What happened?
So there were cigars that still made the list, but not as high as they probably, I think that people thought that maybe they would be. There were cigars that did not make the list that I think people thought were going to be on the list or at the top of the list just because they weren't good enough at all. But whatever the case may be, there was a lot of them. Now, the reason why I bring this up now is to kind of like bring it all back full circle is the Papa Saka, again, and as most people probably already know this, I don't need to tell you, but for the sake of the conversation, that's a cigar that had a lot of hype. Everyone knew it was coming. Everyone was like, oh, there's a new Mikke Rita Black this year. Oh, it's Saka. Oh, it's going to be number 1. It's going to be great. It's going to win the consensus, which it probably still can. And, while it didn't, so far from what I've seen, hasn't won more number 1s, and not every list is done yet. So, that doesn't mean anything at this time in Saturday, January 13th, for those who are, listening to us later on. At this moment in time, that it's not all said and done. Having said that, it has still, on what is out, it has still performed and it has lived up to the hype. Now, again, I feel like that's not a surprise with Steve Saka and, everything he does and the cigars he makes, the blends he works on. It's kind of the same story every year. I mean, I don't really have to tell anybody. That was not a surprise, I think, for a lot of people. When
it wasn't at all.
I mean, even at number 3, top 3, I mean, yeah, that's not a surprise.
I think that's kind of what hurt SakaCon a little bit last year is it came out so late that there was some list that it wasn't eligible for. And then coming in this year when you had Papa Saka come out in the time frame that it was eligible for most lists, it was actually better than the others. So the other one kind of fell by the wayside. Not to take anything away from SakaCon, that is a freaking excellent cigar too.
Yeah, understandably so.
For sure.
Now, and I believe that the Sakakon won the half-wheel consensus. I'm pretty sure it got a couple of. I thought it got a couple. And I can't remember who, but there's a lot of lists out there. But I thought it got a couple of number ones out there. But it was mostly like a top 5, top 10 cigar. Seeing the same with.
I had many conversations with Coop about that cigar, where the concern there was it was reviewed by several media outlets before it was ever released to the public. So
I remember that too. That was another situation.
Well, that was, and that plays into the thing of I mentioned earlier about it being released late in the year. It just made it difficult for it to make lists, and it was a freaking outstanding cigar.
Yeah. No, I agree. There was a couple of those cigars at the end of last year too, where that was a discussion that was had on this show and I think others, but it's still that one performed well and it was popular. This one followed up real nicely, about just the same. I think no one was surprised to see that where it was. At number 4 on the list, we had the Ferio Tego Suma, which came out this year. It's the first core line Ferio Tego branded cigar from Ferio Tego. That's outside of the Timeless and Metropolitan Legacy brand core line stuff. Because the only other 2 Ferio Tego cigars are the Generoso and the Elegancia, which are annual limited releases. This is a solid core line under that Ferio Tego name. So it kind of came out, I don't want to say as a surprise, but I think it caught a lot of people like, oh, there's a new Ferio Tego, and we saw that in the middle of the year it came out. Kevin, I know you went to a Ferio Tego event, with Michael and smoked this, and you fell in love with it right away. And as I said before, my first one, not so much, but I take it with a grain of salt because I believe that one was a show sample. So I took the mulligan on that one, and I smoked more of them. And as the more I smoked them, the more I realized, that was just an anomaly. These were great, and they really stood out very well. And I think that I'm surprised I didn't hear more people talking about that cigar. At least in my circles, I feel like that was a cigar that I wasn't really hearing named mentioned. And then we get to the end of the year, we're looking at the lists and stuff. And now that our list is out, I've looked at other lists, and I mean at number 4 on our list, I mean that says something. I'm sorry. No, I am sorry. Hold on.
I was going to say I was going to correct you after you got done talking. That was actually number 5.
Yeah, I don't know how I fucking messed that up. That's crazy. McAuliffe Black was at number 4. That was at number 5. I apologize. I read that list wrong. This is so small. I wish I could zoom this in.
No disrespect to our buddy Dan Thompson from.
Yeah, no, I apologize.
Watching with us tonight.
I'm looking at my Excel spreadsheet that's all highlighted, and they got all jumbled up. I apologize. It's still, I mean, at number 5, everything I just said is true. I mean, you're talking about top 5. But you're right. Let's go back. At number 4, we had McAuliffe Black. So what I'll say about McAuliffe Black is, again, that was another cigar that came out June-ish. I think that came out. It came out towards the end. Well, it
came out. It was 2 guys in Smokin that had it first before anybody else. It was kind of it was a pre-release, but it wasn't a pre-release right before the trade show, and it was actually, I think, the first cigar that I reviewed for Smokin Tabacco, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it was, and as I remember, I believe the folks at McAuliffe, like those, if I remember correctly, the words they used were soft launch of that cigar, not a pre-release, but like a soft launch.
Soft launch.
That cigar was rated, we've talked about it all year, 91 by Kevin at SmokinTobacco.com. Coop makes fun of us every week on Spare Notes. But it's true, though. It scored very high. At 91, you're not going to be outside, top 10, probably even top 5, depending on how many others. But, it was one of the highest rated cigars on the website last year. Of course, it's deep on the list. I think that was the cigar from McAuliffe that is... I think that's the cigar that... And I haven't spoken to them, anyone from over there, in a bit, but I've said from the beginning, I thought that was the cigar that was going to change a lot of things for McAuliffe. I think it's the best cigar that they've ever made. Kevin, you did the review on that cigar. You should have a lot more to say on this than me, as the person who reviewed it. But yeah, I mean that cigar, it hit the ground running.
Oh, it did, and the price point on that cigar is probably one of the things that is going to really surprise a lot of people. I mean, when you have, we're talking, Davidoff, and we're talking Don Carlos, which, I mean, Don Carlos isn't an expensive cigar by retail standards, but when you get into the, obscure sizes like Eye of the Shark or Eye of the Bull or whatever, they become a secondary market thing. So it drives the price up. When you have a cigar that retails for, $8-9, that can hang with those and can literally be going head to head with those for a Cigar of the Year award, you really have something special. I mean, if we gave a value award, there'd be absolutely not a chance in hell that anything on the planet would have beat that cigar. The transitions in that, the complexity of the blend, the smoking experience, the flavors, just everything with that cigar was wow. When I first got him and cut and lit the first one, I was shocked. It was literally that good.
Yeah. Definitely, I think previous to that release, I had already reviewed a couple of McAuliffes, and like I said, I gave them decent scores. I think I gave one like an 88 and then an 87 or 86, and I was like, solid stuff. But when Kevin did the review, and then you guys sent me some samples, and I saw Kevin's score, I was like, wow, and I lit it up, I was like, deserving, like literally, I was like, as long as like I got through the whole cigar, and I was like, yeah, I can understand 100% why he gave it this score. And like I said, I mentioned before, I think this is the best McAuliffe so far, and absolutely, if we were to do a value list, this would be number one. This would be
100%.
Yeah, you can't, especially in the value, you can't beat it.
1,000%.
It's there's nothing like you're a top 5 cigar under $10. Like what? Like that is for a Toro or Robusto. I
can't think of that ever happen on any list, like ever.
Yeah. So yeah, it was awesome. It's great smoke. I think if you've had McAuliffe before and you're like, oh, I've had a couple, I don't know, you have to go try the cigar. And there's no reason for you not to. It's not hurting your wallet. You just got to go out and smoke it. It's accessible. You can pretty much get it anywhere. Go to your local brick and mortar. If they don't carry McAuliffe, ask them to carry McAuliffe. They support brick and mortars amazingly, and just pick one up, pick a 5-pack up, and give some to your friends.
Yeah. One of the things that really struck me with this one is when I gave it an 81, I got a lot of shit from my friends. It's like, wow, it's an $8 cigar. How are you giving it a 91? Have you smoked it yet? It's like, no, but there's no way it's a 91. So I would say they would either pick up a $5 or I would send them some, and they would smoke it. And everybody I sent it to was like, holy shit, you're right. And it turned into box buys on multiple occasions from multiple friends that tried it, that had smoked McAuliffe, that says, okay, they're okay as cigars. They're not bad. They're nothing stand out. I mean, it's a good, McAuliffe is a great cigar. It's flavor, they're flavorful, they're good quality. When they try this, they found that it was hard to believe that it was from the same manufacturer. Yeah, which to Matt's point is literally McAuliffe took off in a different direction with the cigar. They definitely had different plans for what they're going to do, and mission accomplished for whatever it is that they were trying to achieve, because you knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that. Just again, huge shout out to McAuliffe on that cigar. Obviously we're talking about everything on the list here, but that one in particular, it was great, and I think it's important to that company too, for a lot of reasons. So just a huge congratulations to them on placing high up on the list and the success that they've had with that cigar. And I hope it continues for them. So, and Dan made a comment earlier. It sounds like they got some more stuff in the pipeline. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what else they got going on.
Can't wait.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait.
And Barb's comment that just popped up on the screen right here, where she says price doesn't matter if it's that good, it's that good, and it's 100. She's 100% right.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
We are so price driven, and a lot of consumers are price driven. If it's a $40 cigar, it's got to be excellent. Well, when I can hand you an $8 cigar that will hang with a $40 cigar,
Boom.
it doesn't matter.
Yeah. 100%. Let's pause for a second. Let's talk about some of our friends over in Paris. That's right, ST Dupont. We are using our ST Dupont cutters and lighters tonight. Nothing but the best here at Smokin Tabacco. That's what we use to rely on cutting and lighting. There it is. I think my flint's getting thin. Just fantastic stuff. Always reliable, always lights, always cuts. Some of the sharpest cutters in the business. A wide range of products. Check them out at ST Dupont today and always be exceptional. As we continue to go down the list, and I'm not going to go through probably...
I don't think we actually talked about what any of us are smoking besides you, Matt. I don't know if we want to...
you can
real quick before
go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, you go first.
What are you... Okay,
you brought it up. You're
yeah,
first.
you brought it up, so...
I know, yeah, might as well. I lit up a new cigar that I haven't had before. It's the Plasencia Alma del Campo. I love Plasencia.
That's your first one?
Of a Del Campo, yeah.
I love that cigar. I love that
He
cigar.
lives in Canada, bro.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean,
I've had a Fuego, I've had a Fuerte, I've had a few other. I think I had one of the Cosechas. I haven't had the most recent Cosecha, but I've heard those are good. Yeah, the more recent ones as well. But yeah, this is nice. It's a lot more, it's a lot less pepperier. It's a lot less pepper than a lot of their other stuff. This definitely hits in that medium range.
It's a good soft medium.
Yeah, it's the thicker ring gauge definitely mellows out a lot of that flavor, but really nice complexity, nuttiness, good flavor to it. Really enjoying this, and it's burning great. The ash is holding on great, and yeah, even with this crazy dry humidity weather and freezing cold and then really hot, it's doing great. It's burning well. What are you smoking, Kevin?
I am smoking the Illusion Original Documents Habano in the Lancero size that I got from Fred at Rocky Mountain Cigar Fest. Beautiful. And I will say that in this size, the Lancero, it definitely tastes different than it did in the other sizes. This one's a burner. I love this cigar.
Yeah, it's Illusione, man. They're always firing on all cylinders. Dion's just a great blender. Yeah, Matt, you already mentioned you're smoking the Papa Saka, right?
Yeah, I'm smoking the Papa Saka, which is burning well. Burning like a number 3 cigar of the year.
I loved that cigar. I love that cigar.
It was great.
And I will say, since I know Matt had wanted to talk about pairings and doing different things, with food and with drink and whatnot, I am pairing it with a little Smoke Wagon, the younger bourbon.
Oh, I don't think I've had the younger yet, but I've had
haven't had the younger. I've got some for you when you come to town next time.
Oh, nice! I'm excited. Yeah, I mean, I've smoked a lot. I've drank a lot of the Smoke Wagon whiskey, and everything I've had has been phenomenal. And it's interesting because it's, you hear Las Vegas and you think like, oh, whiskey from Las Vegas. That's so random, but it's delicious. They do some really good stuff. So anytime you can score a bottle of that, sorry, excuse me. Anytime you can score a bottle of that, check it out. I don't think it's pricey. You can get it outside of Vegas too, right, Kevin?
You can get it outside of Vegas.
Yep.
It's becoming more and more prevalent. Like, we're just in Ohio, and the liquor store that Smoke Wagon to us here is kind of like what Weller is to back east. And the liquor store that we go to when we're back in Ohio, they typically have a lot of the Weller stuff. And I was actually surprised they literally had all the new Smoke Wagon stuff.
Oh, wow.
So,
yeah,
and their state-run store too. So, that means, definitely decisions had to be made and whatnot to get it in there. So,
well,
I got a feeling it'll become more prevalent, at least in Ohio.
I just wish that Matt Booth would get his Rum 101 gin, into New Hampshire because I don't know why. And I have a couple bottles that I always seem to have a couple bottles I keep on hand, and I've introduced that to several people. And I'm like, you like gin? And they're like, yeah. And I go, well, I got one for you. And they're like, all right. And I give it, and they're like, holy shit, what is that? And I tell them, and they're like, where do I get it? And I'm like, well, you can't get it here. And they get all disappointed, and they're like, what? And I'm like, you can order it online if they don't have it in your area. But I keep telling Matt, I'm like, you got to get into New Hampshire, dude. I'm telling you. I don't know what you got going on, but you got to make that a reality. It would do so good here. People love it. People want to see it.
It's the only gin I'll drink.
I know. It's same too. I'm not a gin guy at all, but I drink that.
It's that much different than regular gin, than any other gin on the market.
Yeah, I'll drink that, but I won't drink anything else, gin wise. So
makes the best Negroni I've ever had.
Oh, 100%, 100%. And speaking of Room 101, that kind of brings us to the number 6 spot on the list, which was the Room 101 Johnny. Is it 7? You know what it is? I'm looking at the Excel spreadsheet numbers.
Yeah, it's like one off.
Yeah, and it's fucking me up. That's what it is. Is it no? It's 1, 2,
yeah,
3,
6
4,
is
5,
Ferriotego.
6.
Yeah, to assume it's number 5.
Yeah, no, it's number 6. No, I got that right.
Number 6. He was
1,
right.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, my bad. Yeah.
Johnny T. Don't be hating on our buddy.
No, you're right. You're right. That's my bad. That's my bad.
Yeah. So I thought so. He was at number 6. Now, one thing I'll say, and like I said before, we're not going to go through the entire list tonight because we kind of already did, but we're going to go through a lot of it. At least in the top 10 for sure. But the Johnny Tobacco, when we got to look, I think most of us, or at least Kevin and I for sure, Kevin, I think, had the original Johnny Tobacco. I did not. Then in 22, Matt did a special limited release in the 10-count Perfecto size with Luxury Cigar Club. And I did get a box of those. I still have a couple left, and they were fantastic. And then they were gone. And I was like, oh, man, I wish you'd make more of these. These were really, really good. And then we got to the trade show, and Forged had announced that they would be releasing it as a regular production, and they were also going to be making it in the Robusto and the Toro sizes in 20-count boxes, and they were also going to be doing the Perfecto in the 10-count boxes. And I got very excited, and I said, oh, these are so great. But I had only smoked in that Perfecto size, which was great, but, I wanted to smoke it in a regular Parejo. So they had the show, and this is where I kind of, reveal the thing about media that everyone likes to hate on us for, but I fell on the sword on this one because the cigar was so good. They had a basket at the Forge booth at every section for each whatever that was being showcased, and Room 101's had a basket of just all of those. And I remember I went over and I was like, oh, I'm gonna grab one because I want to see how I'm gonna try the Robusto size. And I don't really smoke on the trade show floor when I'm there. And I know that sounds weird, but as media, it's just kind of it gets in the way. You know what I mean? As a retailer, it's one thing. As a manufacturer, as a media guy doing interviews, it's a pain in the ass. It gets in the way. It's a distraction. I love smoking, but at the same time, when I'm doing the trade show stuff, that's more important. I smoke later. Having said that, I grabbed one. I had a few minutes. I said, I'm just going to light it up. If I don't finish it, whatever. Oh, I made sure I finished that cigar. I was blown away. And I remember texting the group and was like, did you guys go to Ford yet? Did you have this? And I will admit, that was pretty early on in the trade show. And for the rest of the trade show, I kept sneaking over to Forged. And I kept grabbing a couple, not just to hoard and take home. I was grabbing them, cutting them, lighting them, smoking them, and then I'd finish it. And then an hour later, I'd go, I gotta go swing by the Forge booth again. And I'd go grab another one and cut it and light it because it was so good. I just couldn't stop. The cigar was fantastic. And I know that Kevin and Mitchell felt the same way too. I mean, you guys actually did the interview with Matt. But that cigar, I mean, it really blew me away.
Well, we didn't really do. Wait. We really didn't do the interview with Matt. I think Mitch actually got interviewed by Matt, if memory serves me right.
I wasn't there, so I didn't know. But yeah, you're right. I think it was the other way around.
It was a good entry though. No,
But to your point, that cigar was outstanding, and that's one of those ones. If you get to the PCA trade show and you see Matt walking around smoking a cigar, it's good because he doesn't smoke cigars while we're on the show floor.
Yeah, that's a telltale sign.
yeah. So for me, you know how we said, like, for value would have been McAuliffe Black. I think for surprise cigar, I think this, like, if that was a list, no one really has that as a list. This would have been the biggest surprise for me. In a million years, you know, I always mention all the time, I'm not a huge Connecticut shade smoker. I don't often rate them very high. They just don't hit my palate as well. Like I'll when there's a good one, I know it's good. It's got the good flavors, but I tend to not lean. I tend to lean more Habano or even, you know, broadleaf. I also had an original Johnny Tobacco, which I don't think I've ever told you guys that, but I did have an original Johnny Tobacco. It was really, really aged though. Like I knew someone who bought some and he had put some away and he had brought it out, and I tried it and it was way over aged. It didn't have that much flavor, and I was just kind of like, that was okay. When I lit this up, I was like I literally said, there's got to be something wrong with my palate. And I was like, this can't be that good. Like, this can't be that. I got through the whole thing, and I think I even messaged Kevin as well and be like, is this actually this good? Like, am I just going crazy? And I had to light up another one. I think like a week later, I was like, I'm going to reset my palate, lit up another one, and it was the consistency. And I was just like, it was so smokable. I can't even really describe like, oh, it had this flavor. It was just so smokable, right? Like Matt said, you just want to come back to it, and it just it was just an enjoyable smoke. That's all I can, and it deserves to be in the top 10. Again, I'm very surprised it hasn't hit more lists as well. It was a great cigar. And like I said, being Connecticut and me previously having like an experience that wasn't like outstanding, it blew me away. So,
well, Kevin O'Connor's comment on here says, "I've never enjoyed so many Connecticut's this past year than any other years in the past." And that was actually, as you were saying that, I was kind of formulating a comment in my head. If you actually look at our list, this really was the year of the Connecticut. There are a lot of Connecticut's on our list, and the Connecticut cigar, literally, it's gone to another level. Because the Connecticut's not easy to blend, and to blend it and to make it stand out and to have the power as well as good flavors other than just grass and hay and cedar and just kind of like your normal Connecticut flavors where it's like smoke and air. Those days are gone. You know, if you grab a Connecticut from 10 years ago compared to Connecticut today, from, you know, like the Johnny Tobacco Knot, or, you know, there's other ones on our list, like the Paustani that were on our list. The quality of the cigar it's so much. Well, I shouldn't say the quality of the cigar, just the flavor delivery, the power, the complexity. There's so much there that just never existed in Connecticut's before. It's literally a whole new avenue.
Yeah, there was another cigar. I think it was a Lost and Found that Matt did with Caldwell. The Hit and Run. Do you remember that one, Kevin?
I do. I don't remember the name of it.
It was called the Hit and Run.
It
had the white band with like the purple and pinkish flower on it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That cigar, I think, was the only cigar with the Room 101 name on it that I didn't love. And the reason being was, to your point that you just said, because if I remember correctly, is that a Connecticut shade? I think it is a Connecticut shade cigar. I don't think it's in production anymore, but I'm pretty sure it was a Connecticut shade cigar. But I remember smoking it and being like, it was one of the first Room 101 cigars I ever had. And I remember, this is several years back, and I remember smoking it and being like, there's nothing here. It's like smoking air. There was nothing there. And I know there was people who raved about it. And I was like,
Well, there's a lot of people that start out
flavorless.
Connecticut. It's just when you go to a B&M and you're a new smoker, a lot of B&Ms are going to hand you a Connecticut because they're typically not strong. They're typically mild to medium profile. They don't have a lot of nicotine. They're relatively easy to smoke. But the problem is it gets you smoking cigars. But if you have any kind of a palate, it's smoking air, right?
Yeah.
That was how I started. I think, I don't know, Matt, Mitch, I don't know what your early smoking experiences were, but I started in the Connecticut, and it was just like you would smoke these and be, how come people like these? There's not really anything there. And then somebody gives you something that's medium full to full bodied, and it's like, wow, okay, now I understand why people smoke cigars. Well, now you're getting Connecticut's that are in that medium full range, maybe even knocking on full, either medium full in strength, medium full to full bodied, and they will hang with some of the most popular medium full to full bodied, Maduros, Habanos, everything else. So
yeah,
Absolutely.
again, just kind of wrapping this one up. I mean, I don't want to say that there was a lot of hype on it, but for sure, once it was out and people started smoking it, and of course when this team got our hands on it, it's one that just immediately was like, this is going on the list. I mean, we're talking over the summer before we were even thinking about doing the list, and it was like, this is on the list without a question.
Yeah. When you have a cigar that you're reaching for on a regular basis, there's no question.
At a trade show, yeah, for sure. Yeah. So I mean, again, people want to know like how these lists come together. I mean, it's tricky, but I mean, you get cigars like that, and you already know they're on the list. There are just some cigars that are just that good. There are some you got to revisit, but then there's some like that where you smoke it once, you're like, boom, list. And I feel like most of the top 10 is pretty much that way, which it should be. Excuse me, I don't know why I keep yawning. I feel horrible about it. Sorry.
There's cigars that the top 10 are cigars that every time you pick the cigar up, it's going to be memorable, and you're going to want to smoke it again. That's the basis for how these lists are built, and the top 10, no doubt, is they're heavy hitters, they're good burners, there's good flavors, and it's just an all-around amazing cigar.
Yeah, so I mean, again, that was a major standout. And then if you go down to the next spot on the list, at number 7, right? No.
8,
4,
no,
5.
7.
I think it's
7.
7.
7. Yeah. Number 7.
Now we're to number 7.
So that one was the Liga Privada H99 Papas Fritas. Now, what's interesting about that is it was a big year for Liga Privada, specifically H99, although there was some other Liga stuff that was done. The H99, I would say, is probably the one that got the most attention because there was the most added to it. We also saw the Super Ancho, which was their 6x60. They also released the Lancero, the Phineas Gage. There was a Flying Pig version that was made, which I think was exclusive only to the Barn Smoker events. And then, as part of their Freestyle Live, they did the H99 Papas Fritas, which I remember when it was going on, and I think, Kevin, you called that one, like, oh, this is an H99 Papas Fritas.
Well, as soon as I tasted it, it was a no-brainer what it was.
Yeah, so, and it was great. And you know what? It's a fun size. It's a small little cigar, especially when you don't have a lot of time. I don't know the exact price point on it, but I know it's not super expensive. I
think they're like $7 or $8.
Yeah, for what it is. I mean, it's not bad. So again, you talk about the value. I mean, it's a cigar that they use a lot of the trimmings from the bigger sizes to make that. And it works. It works really well. It's a good value. The H99 kind of became... I've always been a fan of Liga Privada. I've liked it for many years. I used to smoke a lot more of it than I do now. Just mostly just because I have to smoke so many other things. But it was, again, Liga's, been a solid brand, on a personal note for me. The H99s came out and, started becoming more accessible, and I started to smoke them more, and I was like, I was always a number 9 guy, like, number 9. That was my shit. That was my jam. The H99 kind of took that spot for me personally. I've just really fallen in love with H99, and the Papas Fritas is great. It's a great addition to the line. Good value, good cigar. You're using good tobaccos to make, for what it is. And I just knew, I'm like, this is a list-worthy cigar for all those reasons. It's not the fanciest cigar in the world. It's a small format. It's a lot of short pieces inside there in the filler. It's a lot of short filler. But it's great. I mean, it burns great, tastes great. It just, everything about it. It's 10 out of 10. It wasn't really a shock to see that on the list. I don't think I saw it on a lot of other lists, but I knew on our list, I'm like, it has to be there. It just does.
What they did there with that cigar and why it landed where it landed is just to make a cigar like that basically, like you said, is trimmings from the other sizes. To make that cigar taste just like the other ones, that's not easy to do. I mean, yes, it has the same tobacco in it, but being the format behind why it was designed and how it's designed and how it's rolled, it's hard to make it. How do you make a Papas Fritas taste like an H99 Toro? But they pulled it off.
That's true. It's not easy to always replicate stuff in certain sizes, and that's why to Coop's point, even though he's not here tonight, but he probably would say this is, that's why Lanceros are so tricky. They're not easy to make. I know a lot of people probably don't realize that, but it's hard to add a Lancero to a line because it's just so tricky to get that blend right because it's so thin too. You have a much smaller room for error. So when you find a cigar that's in a much smaller format like that, that's added to a line, and it performs like that, you really know it's a winner because it's anyone can make a Toro, anyone can make a Robusto. Those are classic sizes. If you know what you're doing, you can make one. It'll be fine. To make it in a skinnier, shorter, smaller format, that's
a little trompetta size. The size of that is unique too, because it goes from thicker ring to small ring, and it's crazy. And then to your point on Lanceros, if they're done right, I think a Lancero definitely is the best representation of what a cigar is supposed to taste like if it's done right.
Correct.
I am really good friends with Alec and Bradley Rubin from Alec Bradley Cigars, and the Lancero is their favorite size. And there's been many of the cigars in their line that they've tried to do Lanceros with that they just can't do it because you can't get the ratios right.
It just doesn't work.
It just doesn't work.
Now, what's funny is going into the next slot, number 8 was a Lancero. Actually, I shouldn't say that. They don't call it a Lancero, but
it's a Lancero.
It's a Lancero. That was the Davidoff. So the other Davidoff that was on the list, which was also a limited release from last year, was the Signature number 1. So number 1 was the Anniversario number 1, which was closer to, I say close, not exactly, closer to like your typical A size cigar. I think it's slightly shorter, so I don't think it's officially an A. An A is like over 9 inches. I don't think that one's.
I would call it like a double Corona, like a Corona. What is it? Corona Doble.
Like double Corona. It's like a big double Corona. So the Signature number 1 also made the list. Now, again, we go back to the Lancero conversation, and this is a Lancero that's made right, and it performed well. And these came out before the Anniversario. The Anniversarios came out in the fall. The Signature Lanceros came out, I want to say, like late spring. And I first smoked it when I got to Vegas for the trade show. And I said, I want to run in and grab a couple of things from Davidoff of Geneva. and I grabbed a couple of loose ones and I smoked them, and I was like, whew, wow, this was great. And I loved it so much that I went back to Davidoff of Geneva in Las Vegas, where I probably shouldn't have purchased a box because I could have bought it probably at a better value back home, but I didn't care because I wanted them so bad. And I went and bought a whole box of them. And because they were just that good. And I tell you, I've smoked a few more out of that box. I mean, again, that was a heavy favorite for me too. I mean, that size is great.
Different flavor profile for sure.
Different flavor profile.
A little bit darker tobacco, but
yeah,
excellent.
But to kind of what Kevin was saying before, I mean, that it's what a cigar should taste like, and that was a great example of what a good Lancero should be like, and it really showed off all the highlights of what that blend is and the tobacco that's used. So again, that one earned its spot pretty easily too. At number 9, we have the Crowned Heads La Vereda, which this was, Kevin, I know you were really big on this cigar. This was an interesting release. Crowned Heads has been a company that, and I think all of us here at Smokin Tabacco has followed pretty closely the last several years, really gotten into, really, smoked a lot of their stuff, a lot of different stuff. Everyone's got their favorites, I think, on this team. La Vereda was, I don't want to say, it was a surprise for me. I don't know if I can say that for everyone else here, but
same here.
Same.
Yeah.
Surprise, yep.
It was a surprise.
Well, what they did with it and its position, that was really Crowned Head's first foray into the ultra premium or luxury line.
Yeah.
To say. And I mean, it's risky. They're well outside their wheelhouse, well outside their price point. And I mean, the chances that it could be pulled off or not, like I said, it's risky. And they nailed it.
They've been making a lot of great stuff lately with their different blends and stuff that they do, and they got the Las Calaveras, which is very popular. It comes out every year, yada yada yada. But that La Vereda, I mean, I had high hopes, but I smoked it and I was like, wow. I mean, this is special, especially for a brand like Crowned Heads. So I mean, for me, having it in the top 10 again was an easy sell just because of how well it smoked for me, everyone on the team. I don't think we reviewed that cigar.
No,
we did not. We did not.
But I know it would score high if we did.
What I found flavor-wise that really surprised me was right off the bat, the balance of sweetness that I was getting. Personally, I was just blown away. Like, it wasn't overly sweet, but it had this balance of earth and sweet and spice that just to me it was it's sometimes cigars aren't super balanced. They're really flavorful and they're really upfront and they taste delicious, but they're not necessarily balanced. This to me felt very balanced with a good, nothing really took to the forefront, but there was everything there kind of thing for me. So that just really surprised me, and really kind of that's why I again, when I first smoked it, I think I even mentioned to you guys, I was like, wow, blown away by this. If you haven't smoked it, smoke it. And you guys both agreed. So,
well, there's a buttery creaminess in the finish of that literally brings that earthiness and spiciness together. And wow. And I think if I'm not mistaken, that was produced at the EP Carrillo factory, which was another first for Crowned Heads, if I'm not mistaken. And again, if you're looking for where they try to position that cigar is if you're having a special occasion, like a wedding or a graduation or an anniversary or something like that, where you want a special cigar to smoke that's going to be amazing quality. It's going to be memorable. It can pair with a lot of different beverages. They hit it out of the park with that. They got exactly, John Huber got exactly what he was going for with that. So,
And
I will
honestly, it
say,
doesn't go in.
just from a personal note, it pairs well with an old Cuban. That is probably the best. That is the best beverage that I've had yet with that cigar.
The funny thing is that you mentioned Cuban, and I said this on the show the other night. The only thing about the Lavareda that, like, and I swear I can't be the only person that happens to.
I said it the first time too.
Did you?
Yeah.
You know what I'm gonna say. Every time I
Yeah,
look at it, I think of
course.
Vaqueros from Habanos.
You can't not. The V
Yeah.
is very similar, but
You see that V and you're like, oh, wait a minute.
but I was gonna say, like, the whole packaging as well, although it doesn't go into obviously like placement on a list or score or anything, but like it is a very sleek looking cigar. The color combination and the V and the whole presentation of the cigar, it feels high end when you have it in your hand, and when you light it up,
Mhm.
you kind of almost get that. You're like, this is almost what I expected just looking at it. You're like, wow, this is an elevated flavor profile.
Yeah.
Well, that's the purpose of it. You set that box on the table at an anniversary party.
Yeah.
It's going to
Beautiful.
attract attention. Everybody's going, whoa, Mr. Big Bucks, big spender. You must have spent a lot of money on those. And it just has that look.
Yeah.
100%. And I'm excited to see the continued growth of that cigar with Crown Heads. They're a company that's been doing some great stuff lately, and just want to see them keeping up the momentum. Just
Well, John Huber's a great guy.
Absolutely.
Miguel Shodell is, he's a great personal friend, and I am extremely happy to see that cigar hit the points that it was designed to hit, and I'm sure they're going to be successful with that blend.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. So we're gonna get to the number 10 cigar, and then I'm gonna talk about maybe some honorable mentions, and then we're gonna talk about with PCA actually coming up soon. Kind of change gears a little bit, and then talk about what we're excited about for this year. There's already been some stuff that's come out that didn't make the deadline for 23, so it's in the running for 24. And a couple of them, I think, are already contenders. There's one that I'm gonna be. It's not. I don't think it's gonna be a contender for us this year. And I'm gonna be honest with you, and I'm gonna say what I think it. Well, I'm not what I think. I'm gonna tell you what it is. But it's no hate. It's just I smoked a few, and they weren't. They were much different than I anticipated. But and I'll get to that in a second. But just so you guys know, kind of change gears here. But at number 10, we had the Roma Craft, the Quinquagenario, which was something that Skip Martin worked on with Ernie Carrillo for his 50th birthday. It's one of the first cigars Nicole smoked after she was pregnant. It was a cigar that I smoked roughly around the time that it first was available. And it was a cigar that we fell in love with. It was, we haven't really had a lot of Roma stuff on the list in the last couple of years, but this was a cigar that really stood out. And it burned well, it performed well. It was different because, it was just with the creation of it, it's kind of different than the rest of the Roma Craft stuff, with the working with Ernie on it. For certain, it was different. The other one we really liked was the Intemperance, the Volstad. But this cigar I think edged out just by a little bit. It was a really popular one for us, and it was a good example of just another a great cigar all around, good blend. It burned well, construction was right. Also not to mention. Ernie had a cigar. He had at 25. He had the Allegiance on the list, but everything he's been doing, on his own under his own name. I think I mentioned this the other night. It's been top notch. Cigar Aficionado's given him 2 Cigar of the Year awards for his cigars. That Pledge of Allegiance that came out this year, that one was a popular one. Kevin, I think me and you smoked the Allegiance together back in February of last year.
Yes.
And I remember we smoked it and it was just like, poof, this is good. Wow, this is one we can't forget about. Um, just a big fan of what's been coming out of that factory. Um, I can't say enough about it, and I have hope that he's going to have a cigar that's at the top of our list in years to come. I mean, it's tricky, like we said, it's tricky to put this list together, but so it's hard because there's a lot of good cigars too, and everything on the list, it's on the list, so it's good. Certain parts of the list are easier than others, but it's hard. You put a cigar in a spot and you lock it in. You say, all right, it's going there, but even then, you just can't help it like. Should it be higher though? You almost kill yourself thinking about it. As these guys know, it is, and that's why I said the other day, like we have to just you have to finalize our list and stick with it, because if we just keep like picking at it and moving things around, we turn into Steve Saka. We're just never satisfied, and we keep tweaking stuff, and it's just never what we want. So, but that's our top 10. So,
I can be as grumpy as Steve Saka.
Yeah, you can be.
Our top 10, I really like it. If pretty much any of those cigars, I would have no problem defending ever. Like there's those cigars are so easy to suggest to people to try, and to suggest to people to buy, and it's a no-brainer on any single one of those. Obviously, we have stuff from all the way from very light to pretty strong on there. It's a nice range of things, and it's just I don't know how anyone could come up to us and say, oh, obviously someone might not like something, that's their personal preference, but again, I could defend every single one of those cigars on that top 10 super easily,
100%,
without even a question. So yeah,
I mean, there's not a cigar in our top 25 list that I would hesitate to give to somebody.
Agreed.
Yeah, I mean, just quick. I mean, the next few that go down, and we won't really get into them, but the Asylum Sensorium, which came out, which was a very special cigar, using a very different kind of tobacco. Christian was on the show a few months ago, and I know Mitchell, I think you were there. We talked a lot about that.
Yep.
It scored high with us. The Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust, the Krakatoa, which I have some with me. I think that's another one that a lot of people anticipated being on lists, and I think I've seen on a lot of other lists. I have the Krakatoa here. That's another great one. The Paustania, Connecticut. Kevin had kind of mentioned that earlier. That's another one. Great Connecticut too. That was one that I think a lot of people were excited to see. Those that follow Paustania, I mean, they're a smaller brand, but if you follow them and you pay attention enough, you've smoked their stuff. That one was a real winner. Christoph came out with the Trace Compadres. I thought outside of the Guardrail that came out the year before, which was an excellent cigar, I thought this was another one of those cigars that's been one of the best that Christoph has manufactured in recent memory. Just a huge shout out to them for doing such a great cigar. And then the Tatuaje Lomo de Cerdo, which was the Tuxtla iteration of the pork tenderloin that Tatuaje is very well known for. Which, Kevin, I think you're the only one here that's actually smoked the original, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and I think you probably feel the same way as I do on that cigar. It was a great cigar. It's not the original pork tenderloin with a broadleaf, but it's still a great cigar.
No. Yeah, I mean, broadleaf is one of my favorite wrappers, period.
Yeah.
And it was not the original, but it was still an amazing cigar.
Absolutely, 100%. So I mean, that's kind of like the bulk of our list right there. Like I said, there's more, but I wanted to kind of switch gears a little bit before we got too late to the show. Talking about 2024, what we've already seen. PCA's coming up. What are we excited to see? What do we anticipate with that trade show? Earlier in the year, I know some manufacturers have said no issue with that. Some of them have said it's been making their schedule a little bit tighter, and so everyone's kind of a little bit different. But the first few that have come out that didn't make eligibility for this list that I think are in good consideration for 2024. I'm going to go right out of the gate with Perdomo, the Perdomo 30th.
Oh yeah.
That's a cigar, a lot of anticipation. We've known about it for a while now. It was a little bit delayed because of packaging issues, but I think everyone here has smoked at least one or two of those. I have smoked every single one of those in the Epicure size in all three wrapper variations. It's Kevin, you have.
I've only smoked Habano.
Right.
Sun-grown.
The sun-grown. And that one right there, I'm going to make a bold statement here, and I'm going to say that it's early. This can change, so don't hold me to it. Early prediction. And Kevin, I'm curious to see what you think. I could see two of those making the list in 2024.
I'm not going to argue. I mean,
I was gonna. Yeah.
I like the sun. I mean, I am a Perdomo sun-grown fanboy.
Me too.
And of those three, the sun-grown was my favorite. Big surprise. Definitely the sun-grown. And I mean, it's going to be a toss-up between Connecticut and Maduro for making the list. I mean, there's an off chance all three of them can make the list, which would be crazy for one manufacturer to get three cigars in the top 25. But
I mean, if that's an instance, but
I'm not going to lie, it could happen.
With them and that cigar, I could see that happening just because of how well made all three of them are.
Absolutely.
And the fact that they're all released at the same time. And that's
another brand too, not to cut you off, Matt, but that's another brand that no matter when you pick it up, you know it's going to be consistent. You know it's going to smoke good. You know it's going to be flavorful, and you're going to know what to expect every time you pick one up.
Yeah, and Nicole commented, so she actually smoked the Maduro last night, and because her band is right here from last night. And she liked it. To me, the Connecticut and the sun-grown, they were all really good, but the Connecticut and the sun-grown, I think, were my favorites. And then out of those two, if I had to pick one, I'd say the Connecticut. I've smoked two or three of them now. And ever since the first one, I was like, wow, this is really something. Even for Perdomo, it smokes like a $30 or a $40 cigar. I think it's 15 bucks?
100%. It smokes like a $30 or $40 cigar. I mean, my favorite Perdomo line is the 12th anniversary, or the 12-year.
The 12-year.
12-year double-aged, and
I've yet to smoke one of those.
These are even better.
I'd agree.
I think you mentioned everything is 15-year age tobacco in there, pretty much.
I think that is what it is.
The majority of,
if not, it's the wrapper. But no, I think it all is
wrapper, binder, filler.
It might all. I think all of it is actually. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. I know Nick had said they had been working on this for a long time. They were growing that tobacco for a while. And I think he said they were working on this for quite some time and working on it, perfecting it, getting it right, and it just shows. I mean, when you cut it and you light it and you smoke it, I mean, you're like, oh, for $15 or whatever it is, I can't remember. It might be a little bit less than that, but dude, if you took the band off and gave it to me, I'd be like, this is an ultra premium cigar. That's probably high in price.
Absolutely.
I mean, Nick had a plan when that cigar was being developed, and they knew that the 30th anniversary needed to be something extra special. And again, like I've said about some other blends tonight, mission accomplished. Definitely hit it with that.
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, it's early. Oh, excuse me. It's only January, but yeah.
I can't wait to do a deep dive and do a review on those.
That's gonna be fun. But I think it's early on making a prediction. Those are gonna be on the list. There's gonna be more than one Perdomo 30th on the list. That's my early guess. The other one that I really like that didn't make the cutoff for this year, but I think is a contender for 24, is the Joya de Nicaragua Cinco de Cinco, which we saw at the trade show, but it wasn't released until later in the year. I know I've smoked it, Kevin. I think you have those cigars.
I've smoked one. I didn't get one at the trade show, but I got them right after they landed.
That cigar is a standout for me right now. I'm really enjoying that cigar. It's performing well. It's very complex. It's got some good body to it. That's going to be another one for me. And I'm excited
to try that.
I wouldn't be shocked to see that one also towards the top of our list in 24. It's just, again, I mean, a lot of that stuff that, especially their Obas Maestras line, in my opinion, some of the best cigars that are on the market today. Period. I mean, Hoya does a great job with their stuff and what they've been working on. I mean, look at like the Numero Uno. There's another one.
Another Connecticut.
I love that cigar. I really do. Anytime I find them, I grab them because they're not always widely available. So when I see them, I grab them. And
they're not inexpensive either, but that's another cigar that's another cigar that's 100% worth the price you pay for it.
100%, 100%. So for me, it's those are two major standouts already, and it's early, so there's a lot more that has to be done, but. There's also one, I know the two of you haven't smoked it yet, but you will soon. I'll make sure I get them to you. That there was a lot of hype around, and I got them as soon as they were available, and I smoked, I want to say 2 of them. And I don't think it's going to make the list at all. And I'm a little disappointed by it because I'm not sure why or what it is, but it just it's a letdown for me. And that's going to be the new Alfonso, the Grand Selection. As many people know, our 2022 Cigar of the Year was the Alfonso Añejo number 4, which was the first of the Añejo brand to be released, and that got our Cigar of the Year. That cigar was fantastic. It was lights out. It was Half Wheels. The number 3 size was Half Wheels number 1 last year. We had the number 4. Coop put, I think, the number 2 at his number 2 Cigar of the Year this year. I mean, that cigar performed top of the list almost everywhere. I think Dojo gave it their luxury Cigar of the Year last year.
They did.
That cigar performed top of the list almost everywhere. What I will tell you is the Grand Selection came out, and I'm like, okay, the follow-up, okay, let's see. Unfortunately, and I'm not going to bash the cigar because at the end of the day, it's still well made. It comes from Nelson Alfonso, and, the amount of time and the effort he puts in, I won't take that away from him. Construction-wise, it was great. The only thing I don't like about it is the flavor profile. The flavor profile is extremely heavy. Just one-dimensional all the way through black licorice. And just the more I smoke it, the more I'm like, this is just, it's too much. It's too much. It doesn't have enough balance to it. It's overpowering. And for me, I was disappointed because I'm like, well, the first, and that just goes to show, just because, one cigar from a line or a brand, is lights out, win Cigar of the Year, and then you come with the next one, you're like, all right, so like this is probably going to be good too, or at least close. I mean, in my opinion, those cigars are miles apart from each other. And I know the two of you really can't comment on it yet, and they only just came out, and they're not available everywhere, so I know it's tricky. But man, I'll tell you, I was disappointed by that cigar. I don't know. I was hoping it wouldn't be what it is. And I don't think we're going to see that one on the list this year, which is disappointing, but that's just the way she goes.
Based on our conversations with that cigar, though, Matt, I'm going to be real interested. Number one, I want to smoke one sooner than later. And I would like to smoke one in about 6 months just to see if aging has any effect on that black licorice profile, if it mellows it out at all.
And that's true too. I mean, they could change with age, but Out of the gate so far, the first few I've had, oof.
That's because just in our initial conversations and the way that you've described it, it seems like a cigar that if it sits for a few months, that it's going to age into pure fire.
Hopefully.
I mean,
I hope it
myself
does.
personally, I like the black licorice, but if it's heavy black licorice and that's all there is, I can totally understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, and that's kind of the experience I've had through the first two. I know that I saw. We haven't reviewed it yet, but we will be reviewing it. I know that I saw someone else. I think it was Charlie Minato who reviewed it, and it didn't score pretty high. And I think for a lot of the same reasons. And yeah, I've smoked the Toro and the Torpedo. I think he reviewed it on the Lancero that they have. So for me, which I still want to smoke that size because I'd love to. I think what's happening is I think a lot of that flavor is coming from the wrapper. Now, that wrapper tobacco, along with the wrapper tobacco from the Extra Añejo and the Byron 1850, all three of those cigars were among the first that Nelson started to introduce French oak into the aging process along with the cedar. So I think you're getting a lot of the flavor from that. It's the only thing I can really think of. So I'm very curious to smoke it in the Lancero to see if it's just much more amplified, because that'll probably give me my answer.
It should be.
It of course it should, but to be sure, I still want to smoke that thinner ring gauge, but I'm almost positive that's what it is. And it's funny because the Extra Añejo is a milder blend, the Grand Selection is a stronger blend, so I think it hides well in the Extra Añejo, and just whatever it is, I mean, I don't have to really defend. I mean, we gave it Cigar of the Year, we loved it, it was great. But in the Grand Selection blend, just very, very different. I don't feel it hit as well. And to be honest with you, I kind of felt the same way with the Byron 1850, which also has a slightly darker wrapper to it. And I just feel like, with not a lot to go on, but I'll say it, the darker wrapper, I don't know, maybe so far to me, it doesn't really age well with that French oak. But in the lighter wrapper on the Extra Añejo, different story. I mean, it was lights out. So that's my disappointment, I guess, for 2024 so far is that Alfonso Grand Selection. But to Kevin's point, with age, I'd love to see what happens.
Yeah.
That kind of leads me into. Sorry, Mitch.
Oh, I was just gonna say within the same brand, I'm I've mentioned it multiple times, but I'm very interested to try the Atabey Black. I know it's pretty limited, but
that's true.
I wonder. I think I don't know if he's doing the French oak with that one, but I know it is.
I don't think he is.
I know it's a much darker wrapper. And again, Atabey, I've mentioned multiple times, being a cigar I hold up highly. I'm gonna try not to go in with too much expectation, because that can not always, but that can sometimes ruin an experience. I'll just try to go into it thinking, who knows what I'm going to get, and I hope that will maybe perform a little better for us.
Now, in terms of stuff that each of you are excited to see or anticipate to see from manufacturers at the trade show, it could be a cigar, whatever. Is there anything that you guys? I know it's still early, so I know a lot of them haven't really announced what they're bringing to the show. But you have conversations with them, maybe you have an inkling or whatever. Is there anything at this point in time that both of you, and Kevin, I'll start with you, and then Mitchell, you can follow up, that you're expecting to see or excited to see or hoping to see at the trade show coming up in the next few months?
That was actually the thing I was actually starting to say, kind of leading into where you said you're a little bit disappointed in the the Alfonso. My curiosity leading into PCA is it going to be another year of disappointments and hype cigars? Because there really hasn't been a whole bunch of chatter as far as what's going to be there, what's going to be released. I know, talking to some of the manufacturers and some of the reps, that the releases are going to kind of follow suit with release time. It's even though the trade shows, the trade shows earlier, so we're going to maybe see releases landing a little bit earlier and whatnot. So you may actually get to try things earlier in the year than you would normally get. My thing is going to be, we talked about earlier in the show, this year there was a lot of the hype cigars that were just, they didn't hit the notes that they were expected to hit. There was a little bit of disappointment. I want to see if that follows suit this year, or if we have a change and the hype cigars actually hit the hype that they're supposed to hit, and they're good as we would expect them to be.
The other thing that I'm curious about and skeptical over, just to add to that point, and then Mitchell, I'll let you kind of go in, but is that quick turnaround time. I think there's some manufacturers who were prepared for it, and I think there's some manufacturers that it's caused a little bit. I don't want to say of a problem, but I think that there's some manufacturers that they probably are just not on that calendar cycle yet, and are feeling it's not too soon, but I don't think that they are able to have anything really exciting in time for that trade show. I think after the other year, it'll even itself out. But yeah, I mean, I think you're definitely going to see some manufacturers that are surprisingly quiet at the trade show, and I think that's going to be a contributing factor, which will be disappointing. I expect to see that. But then I think you're gonna see a lot of brands that are business as usual. We got 2 new things, and it's tricky because they're all different. They all do different things. Especially, some are bigger than others. They have more capabilities. They already have stuff that, that's already been being worked on that they can just kind of throw into the fire. So I think that's going to have an impact on what you said too, like hype cigars that end up being a disappointment. I think you might see some more of that, given that timetable of the turnaround with the next show being less than a year. But again, time will tell, and they've been quiet so far. But I know we got a couple of announcements for PCA 24, but nothing major. You'll probably start seeing those in the next several weeks, just what everyone is planning to do. But Mitchell, what are your thoughts on the upcoming trade show?
So, I think it's a smaller brand, and it's a cigar we've kind of been they announced but haven't released yet, and I'm interested. I think it's going to close out one of their series is Protocol cigars. I've liked a couple of their releases they've done in the past, and I think it was the Phoebe Cousins is the release we're waiting on, or maybe they did that. I forget which one it is, but I think it's a Lawman series that we're waiting on that they had announced but haven't released yet. Waiting on that for sure. I hope Protocol can pull it together and get that out for the trade show. That's one that I'm looking forward to trying. Although this is not a brand, it is actually a factory, and we've still yet to have any company come forward saying that they're making their cigars at this factory. It's Klaus Kellner's new factory. We had him on the show last year, and he talked, and he had mentioned he's opening his own factory, and unfortunately he couldn't publicly say who or what blends he's working on. He did say he's doing nothing for himself, and he's doing all outsourced things, and it's up to those companies to when they feel free or when they feel comfortable to say that they're working with that and come out with the release. But I'm really interested to see if anyone is going to be publicly announcing that they're making anything at the new Klaus Kellner factory. I forget the exact name because his brother also has a factory called I think it's called
the Kellner Boutique Factory.
Kellner Boutique Cigar Factory, and his is called the Kellner Factory. It is slightly confusing, but I think that's another thing that I'm interested to see, because it's brand new and something we've been looking forward towards. Outside of that, like you said, hard to say for sure. No one's really made any major announcements. I think it's Padron 60th is something we're expecting, but who knows if that will actually come out.
You probably won't see that for another 2 years.
Yeah, so that's one where I'm like, maybe we'll see like a box at the show, but will we actually see the cigar hit next year? I don't know. And then another brand, the brand I'm smoking today, Plasencia, I think they've kind of had a couple of just line extensions in the last few years, and nothing like absolutely like massive in terms of brand new brands. Maybe this year they'll come out with something new. Again, that's just kind of what I'm possibly feeling out there. Those are probably the big three that I'm looking forward towards this show.
I think that Glass Kellner's factory has, so for the only one I'm pretty sure I heard, I think he did some stuff for Brian and Pravada. If I remember correctly, I thought I heard either Brian say it on a show.
I heard the same.
I thought I heard that, but other than that, I haven't heard anything else. But
Yeah.
I think the first thing I heard was he was doing some stuff for Pravada, which is interesting.
I don't think that I don't know if that cigar has been released yet. Maybe it has. I don't know. I don't follow all that stuff too clearly, but yeah, you're right. That is one that they have publicly come out to say that they're gonna work together. But yeah,
With the family history of the Kellners, there's going to be big things expected out of that factory. So they've got their work cut out for them for sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But yeah, it's like you said, I'm expecting, February maybe to see some press releases, and who knows, maybe
February,
obviously
yeah.
this is Drew Estate's first year back. I wonder if they're going to come out with a bang, a new
That's a good
new line
point.
of some sort. Like they've been doing the freestyle lives, I think, releasing cigars through those the past few years, which has been a really cool experience and a really great marketing ploy for them. But they're back at the show, and we know they like to be loud, and it'll be interesting to see if they have something brewing and what it's going to be.
Yeah, there's a freestyle coming up, I think, on the 18th of this month. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do and what the next great thing come out of the from Drew Estate.
Yeah.
It's funny, Mitchell brings that up. That's a good point. Is I anticipate you see some new shit from them at PCA, and that first freestyle, Kevin, that you mentioned. I was just about to mention that too. When's that start? The 18th? That what you said?
18th.
So it's a Monday. Depending on how long that runs and all that, that cigar, whatever that cigar ends up being, that could be like one of the cigars that they, they'll reveal, but they probably will wait to bring to the trade show. My guess to launch it to the retailers there, as well as maybe something else that's not released through Freestyle Live that they bring to the show. Not sure. But that's my guess. They're not going to come empty-handed one way or the other. Especially after last year, we saw them cut over 100 SKUs from their portfolio, making room for new stuff. I mean, that's what that tells me. If it's not selling, not performing, let's cut the weight, but let's make some room for new and fresh ideas. So yeah, I think to that point, they'll probably bring some noise to the trade show. Also, could be said for Forged and Altadas USA, who were both at the trade show last year. Smaller booths than before. I also think that some of those decisions were made, I don't want to say too last minute, but probably not in enough time to have something that they brought to the show that was really like for that show or whatever. So I think you probably see some big debut stuff from them at the trade show.
On the Forge note, again, I don't know if this is confirmed or not, but from what I heard, I don't know who I heard this from. It's just lingering in the back of my head somewhere. Is that they're planning to do 1 year as Forged as the main showcase, and then I think this year as General, like because they own technically separate brands. Those two.
They're operated individually, yeah.
So I think what I heard is General is going to come this year as the main showcase in their brands. I think Forged may have a small footprint there because they've got some big names within there, but I think they're going to be more of the background, whereas General is going to be at the foreground. I don't know for sure. That's just what I've kind of heard through the grapevine. I don't actually remember where I heard that from, but yeah. But even still, with that, I would expect General and some of their brands to maybe have some big releases, as well as, like you mentioned, Altadis.
And as of right now, I'm going to throw this in here. Also, Nicole had mentioned TPE is coming up at the end of the month, and we'll be doing some coverage from TPE as well. Much quieter show. I anticipate it being probably even quieter on the premium cigar side because of PCA being when it is this year. So that's going to be very interesting. I don't think you're going to see a lot of stuff there. I think everyone's still saving their ammo for PCA.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to hold the big guns for the PCA for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
Especially last year in Vegas. This is last year in Vegas. Go up big, man.
Yep. And I'm curious too to see if the PCA, if the brands hold their PCA releases until, because TPE is at the end of this month. So I'm going to be curious to see if the brands hold their their PCA releases until after TPE.
Oh, like their announcements?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's a good point, too. That is a very good point. I think to Mitch's point, February is going to be a very busy month, with that pre-show stuff that happens. But one of the things I did want to add, though, as of right now, and I have not spoken to anyone at Davidoff if there's any update on this, but I would say a decision would be made and announced in the next 40 days if they're going to return. But as of right now, they are not publicly announced that they are on par to return to the PCA trade show. So this year will be only 3 of those 4 big companies, which I think is great still, regardless to have at least most of them back. I think it's good for everybody. But Davidoff will still only be the only one that will not be at the trade show this year. And again, like I said, that could change, but I
do want to make a correction on a previous comment I made too. It's like I actually just went into the Drew Estate Freestyle Live website, and their next Freestyle Live is actually 30 days, 22 hours, and 11 minutes from right now.
That's when the reveal is?
That puts the next Freestyle Live event into the mid-February.
Or that's when it starts, or that's when that will be revealed?
That's when it'll be revealed. That's the next Freestyle Live release.
Okay. So it's possible. No, because that would be after TPE. Yeah, so I think that cigar, whatever that cigar is, you might see them reveal, but then they could wait till PCA to actually let it out of the gate. I could be wrong. Maybe
soft launch, maybe.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting to see. But yeah, I mean, I like you guys were saying too. I think Drew Estate at the trade show this year is going to make some noise, not just physically in the booth, because I think that for sure is going to happen too. If anyone knows what that's like at a trade show, but no, product-wise too. I think they make a good amount of noise. I'm also curious to see if Hoya, because Hoya was at the show without them in 2023, which was interesting. Now all the Drew Estate sales reps were there taking orders, but I'm curious to see if they kind of go back to a combined booth space or if they're going to still stay separate, which would be interesting to see.
I see them being separate.
I think so too.
I think Hoya deserves their own booth.
I think I see them being separate too. I think they made that clear by coming solo at 2023, and I think they're going to try to keep it that way. And again, I think that I think it's a good move for them, and I also don't see them releasing anything else too big. I think they had a great show in 2023, and I don't see them coming out with a lot of new stuff for PCA. I think it's going to be kind of business as usual for Hoya. But again, I could be wrong. It's still early. I know Steve will probably be talking up the town on at least this. All right, this is what we know. This is just how we know Steve to be. This is my guess for a Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust for PCA 2024. For starters, to make it easy, we'll see a Holiday Blend Y 2024 for Stillwell Star.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get that out there. We know that's coming. Third size of Mikke Rita Black. I know that Steve had previously mentioned that he was working on a handful of sizes in that. Considering how this one has also continued to carry the torch and performing well, I would not be shocked if it was a third size introduced in Mikke Rita Black.
Will we see a new unicorn?
Possibly a new unicorn.
He had 2 last year.
We're talking about Steve
That doesn't mean
Saka.
that doesn't mean he can't have one this year.
That's right.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Oh, yeah. So those are my early, light, soft, educated guess predictions with DTT. I mean, I know Steve's going to bring at least a couple of things. There's no way he shows up empty-handed. Probably not going to see anything new from Ashton. They came out with, which was on our list, the La Roma de Cuba, Connecticut, which landed at the number 19 slot. Ashton's one of those companies that doesn't release something every year. The fact that they released that in 2023, I'm going to make a stab and say that they're probably not going to bring anything new to 2024. Arturo Fuente, you never know. You never know what they're doing at the trade show. They'll have something. They'll have something there one way or the other. J.C. Newman. I don't know.
I'm going to be curious to see if Crown Heads follows up La Vereda with something similar.
That was going to be my next one, Crown Heads. If they do anything, I see them doing possibly something new with Osgener, and then maybe one follow-up on the Crown Heads half for, like to the La Vereda. I see that happening. Not a lot from them, but something. I'm trying to think of who else.
Pete,
sorry.
my father.
Well, the thing with them is, and if you guys remember, we did see that La Union, or La Union, whatever, I don't know if it's.
Yep.
We saw that in the My Father booth. Pete's wife, Yanni Garcia, she talked to us about everything that they had. She talked about it. She pointed out to us. I don't think they weren't taking orders of that cigar at that time. I think that'll be available for order at the 24 show coming up. I'm almost positive. So I think you're going to definitely see that. Pete will probably have a couple of things. I don't know if he's going to continue with his releases in the Tuxla, doing some different stuff in Tuxla, but maybe one of those. I think we'll have more of a follow-up on the other Tatuaje 20th anniversary. We'll probably have some more information on that at the show. But in terms of those two, yeah, I mean, I there's probably a couple things there. I think that La Union thing is probably going to be the big thing, because I think for 24, I think it's going to be probably released, unless there's any delays or any drawbacks to that. So I think, and I think that's going to be a big deal. It's a special price. It's very similar like the Fuente Padron thing. Pete blended something for them and vice versa. So, although there's 4 different cigars, because I think they each did 2, if I remember correctly. So a little bit different, but kind of same idea. I think you're going to probably see that available at the trade show. Ferio Tego, I'd be curious to see if Michael adds something else to the Ferio Tego brand to go up with Suma.
Yeah.
If he didn't, I wouldn't be shocked. But if he did, I wouldn't be shocked. That one can kind of go either way for me. Those are kind of the ones that stick out to me the most, just right off the top of my head. And my brain's a little foggy, so. And Nicole commented here, he had such a killer year last year. Can he repeat it? I think she's talking about Steve Saka.
Yeah.
If anyone can do it, it's Steve.
He always finds a way.
He always finds a way.
When you think he can't do something better than what he already has, he finds a way. Of course, if you talk to Steve, it's shit, it sucks. Don't ever smoke them in Colorado because they're terrible at altitude, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But those of us that know Steve know that that's just his MO. And I think that actually probably does more to generate positive business than saying that they're great.
Yeah, Steve does the reverse psychology method where he's like, my cigars are okay. I do my best, but at the end of the day, they're not for everybody. They're all right. I think they kind of suck. And then everyone goes and buys them all. And he's like, well, I mean, I guess people like them. It's like, come on, Steve. Like, what do you think? We're stupid? Like, he's going to have a banger year. I mean, and I think, Steve, I think he made the joke like this year, like, I'm going to have to come out with cigars that actually suck just so I can stop finally being the talk of the town and winning the consensus. And it's just like,
that's never going to happen.
That's not going to happen.
I mean, everyone, and again, somebody's going to have an off year, but I don't see next year as being an off year for Steve. That company is just growing leaps and bounds, is just blowing up
rapidly. I think because of how successful he's been the last several years in a row. Nicole said DTT has some releases. Will it be a more quiet year? I think it can't be. I think, to keep up the momentum that he's on, I think he has to bring new stuff. I don't think he can just say, well, we're just going to stay. I think he's going to, maybe he won't. I mean, she's right. He had a lot of releases. I don't think he'll have probably the same amount of releases he had in 23, but more than one, at least.
Yeah, more than one.
I mean, it gets to a point where it's not sustainable to come out like that.
True.
But I don't think he's there yet.
No.
But he's getting to that point where you're going to have that 1 year where it's just kind of just like that even keel year where you don't really, you don't really do anything and you just kind of ride on what you've built.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's safe to say you have to think. He's also going to have he's going to have the next Moestra de Saka. He's going to have the holiday, the Y 2024 Stillwell Star. He's going to have most likely a third size in Mickey Rita Black. I don't see him doing anything with Red Meat Lovers Club. He'll probably
even the Stillwell Star line. I mean, you have so many aromatic tobaccos out there. Is there a new line in the Stillwell line and as a core line for the Stillwell Star line?
That's a good point too, Kevin. That's a good point too. He's only had the same original 4 for the last 2 years.
The other thing I've been wondering is he discontinued Todos Las Dias. So I think that was a Habano wrapper. Besides the Solita, which I think is a Habano wrapper, he doesn't really have that kind of like Habano offering. He's got the San Andres, the Sin Compromiso San Andres. He's got the broadleaf. Micarita's huge line broadleaf. He's got the Brulee line now with, Wagashi Blue and Brulee. He doesn't really have that really solid Habano anymore. Does he try to fill in the gap there? Because really, any other offerings, like if he's going lighter wrapper, he's kind of eating into what Brulee has. If he's going darker again, Micarita holds that position. He kind of not saying he doesn't have medium-bodied cigars, but he really doesn't have that upfront kind of four-fronted Habano brand anymore with that Todos kind of held. So, yeah.
I mean, and not going to lie, that was actually probably my least favorite of the Saka line too, of the Dumbarton.
Well, I'm sure I'm sure if you look at the numbers, he probably pulled it out for a certain reason, right? Like, in terms of production wise, it was probably not at the top of the list, and he was like, I maybe need to go back to the drawing board, reblend some things, and maybe even rebrand some things. Like the name Todos Las Dias, like, I don't know, it didn't really resonate with anything. The whole packaging, it was very, I think it wasn't necessarily a total miss, but he just has such high upper echelon stuff, and there's some amazing offerings that he does with Habano wrapper in his Muestra de Saka line. So he can blend amazing Habano. But yeah, that's the only.
Do you see a line extension? Do you see a line extension in the Micarita with a Habano wrapper?
I hope
that's a good question too.
I hope he keeps that brand because everything in Mi Querida is broadleaf. I hope he just keeps that as broadleaf and doesn't. I hope he just comes out with a whole new brand if he's gonna come out with some Habano. But
Well,
hard to say.
He's
the genius. I'm not the genius, so.
You know what's funny when it comes to the Mi Querida line? I wasn't the one to say this, but it's been said to me by several other people. You know, you look at that line and you see a lot of similarities to Liga Privada. Now, let's pretend that is true, and like at least in Steve's head, right? Or maybe whether he was going for that, or if you look at the Liga Privada line, it's all pretty much fuller bodied stuff. There's no Connecticut shade. There's no real mild stuff. I mean, I'd say the mildest cigar in the Liga collection is probably the H99. If you had to ask me, but even then, it's not a mild cigar. I see him kind of keeping it, all full stuff, medium plus full. I think he kind of keeps that the same, kind of similar to like how that line is. I could be wrong. I also remember early in the year that Todos Las Dias came up in the conversation when he was on the show a few months ago. And I remember him saying, people ask about Todos Las Dias, but I don't have plans on bringing it back right now. There's a lot of tobaccos that are in that I need for other stuff that's kind of more important. So that's also a contributing factor too that you have to take into consideration. Is he had those before, but he stopped them for those reasons and a few others. But I know that they were a contributing factor. So yeah, I mean. The other question you have to ask yourself is, how many different tobaccos is Steve willing to work with? And then that kind of minimizes, if none really, it kind of minimizes the amount of options he has. I mean, granted, there's still some things he can do. And everything I mentioned that I'm almost positive I think we'll see, he's going to keep making. But something kind of new out of left field, I don't know if I see that. That's just my opinion.
Well, it'd be interesting for me with Dunbarton because he does the experimental blends for the Great Smoke every year. Could one of those evidently or at some point become an actual release for Steve or some iteration of one of those experimental blends that he does?
Could be,
because those are all together different from anything else he's done. So
yeah, this is true. This is true. Yeah, I don't know, and I think his 2024 Great Smoke release has already gone out. I think that was like last week.
It's already sold out.
It's already sold out.
Done.
It's always the first one, and it's always gone right away. No surprise. But yeah, I mean it's still early, so it's hard to say too much about the trade show and what we anticipate to see. I mean, I think we're getting to the point where we got to start making some predictions here, and then seeing how it shakes out. But at the end of the day, yeah, we still have a little bit of time left. I think it's going to be a good show. More people are back again this year. I think it's going to be a busier show than last year. But time will tell what we're actually going to see there, and then from there, we'll make some more predictions, and then wait for them to come out, smoke them, and then we'll be talking about the list again, 12 months from now. So, I think, like I said, to wrap up, the 2023 year, Kevin, we and you talked a lot about this, was not a disappointing year, but there was a lot of stuff that did not live up to the hype. But there was still enough stuff that we put a good list together. But
yeah,
I think, if we talked about this 12 months ago, maybe not 12, but maybe 6 months ago, it would be like, oh, okay, yeah, like there's some good shots here. But no, there's a lot of stuff that fell flat, and I mean, it is what it is.
I mean, I've been in media now for going on 5 years, and this was definitely the hardest top 25 list that I've had to help put together. So,
yep. This is the hardest one we've ever done.
I'm hoping next year is a little bit easier.
I think it will be, but time will tell. We'll see what comes out. But guys, I think I'm gonna end the show there. We hit our 2-hour mark, and this is kind of what I wanted to focus on for tonight. So,
I have one question before you end the show.
Oh, absolutely.
What the hell was your former championship football team thinking when they hired their new head coach? I mean, you've got Vrabel out there, and they end up with what they end up with.
Here's the thing.
I mean, I'm saying. I mean, my football team got blown out today. They're out of the playoffs for this year.
I was shocked by that too. Actually,
yeah,
they had a lot of momentum. I don't hate it. I don't love it. I don't hate it. I do agree. I think Mike Vrabel would have been a better choice.
He would have been the ultimate choice for that team.
And I heard a rumor online. It was like an unconfirmed rumor from like ESPN or someone that the Kraft family didn't even reach out to him or Jim Harbaugh. I didn't expect Jim Harbaugh to get the job.
No.
I think he's going back to the NFL, but I don't expect them to call him. Although, that would have been cool, but I didn't expect them to go after him. But to hear that they didn't even really talk to Vrabel, I'm like, that's surprising.
That almost sounds like something that the Browns upper management would do or not do.
Look, I mean, officially, it's all over. Brady's gone. Now Belichick's gone. That whole thing, it's all gone. Matthew Slater is probably going to retire. That's the last of the Super Bowl teams. It's all new people.
So I'll be collecting Social Security the next time that the Patriots are going to be a contender. Is that what you're saying?
You never know. Hey, it happened to the Cowboys. They went on their run. I mean, they didn't have the run we had, but they had their period and under Jerry Jones, and then they just stopped. And you know what? You can't always be the winner forever. I mean, not everyone's going to be, even the Yankees. I mean, during the Steinbrenner years, I mean, and even before, I mean, the Yankees were, I mean, in every decade, they had a couple of championships at least. And then you get to the 90s, and that was kind of the end of, like, the Yankee dynasty. They entered the 2000s. You know, they lost every World Series they played in after the 99 World Series, and they won one in 2009. And then, again, nothing after. I mean, it comes to an end eventually. You know, it's the Chicago Bulls. You know, the two back-to-back three-peats with Jordan and Pippen, Rodman, arguably some of the best players in the game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the Bulls haven't done anything notable since. You know, it all comes to an end eventually. And yeah, I mean, look, the Patriots, we had a great run. We had 20 years, 6 championships. You just got to be thankful for that. I mean, how greedy can you be? Mm-hmm. That's all I have to say. How greedy can you be? You know? Yeah, Gerard Mayo.
Very greedy.
Interesting choice. We'll see how it goes, but it is what it is. We got 6 championships. And you can't be too picky. That's it.
You had Tom Brady, so.
We did. And we had Bill Belichick. But yeah, we had Tom Brady. And
well, the Browns had Belichick and Harbaugh and couldn't win, or not Harbaugh. Saban and couldn't win.
Yeah.
So.
I don't know. To answer your question, I don't know. I mean, maybe they think or they feel something that doesn't make sense to us. I don't know.
Well, they get paid a lot more money than we do to make those decisions, so obviously they know something that we don't.
And you know what? And the Crafts own the team, so they can do whatever the fuck they want. They don't have to answer to us.
Amen to that.
But I mean, they all rise and fall.
So where's Belichick going to land so he can get Shula's record?
I've heard so many different. I've heard the big ones. I've heard like consistently. Chargers, Atlanta, and Washington Commanders. I've also heard that the Commanders are very interested in Jim Harbaugh and bringing him back to the NFL.
I heard that. I heard that as well.
So
I think it would stand a better chance going to the Chargers of anywhere to get the 16 that he needs.
And to be honest with you, I don't think he's got. Can he still win another Super Bowl? Absolutely. If he goes to the right place, he does the right thing. Absolutely. No question. There's no question. I think the situation with New England, I think he knew it was coming to an end. Brady left. I think that was step one. Whether he wanted him to leave or not, some people say he wanted Brady out. I don't know. We might never know. We might know someday. But, I think he knew, and I think, you lose the drive, you lose the motivation. I think when he saw how I think he did struggle without Brady, and there's a lot of things there. I don't know, but I think he knew. Now, I definitely think he's not retiring. I definitely think he goes somewhere else. I don't think he's out there looking for another Super Bowl championship. I mean, you always want to win another one, and I think that's always going to be the drive, like, hey, our plan's to win a Super Bowl this year. That should be the goal. But I think personally for him, I don't think it's about winning another Super Bowl. He's already won so many of them. I think it is. I think you're right. I think it's about Shula's record for him. I think he's got everything else. And I think he wants to at least say that on top of all of that, he's also the most winningest coach. And I think if he gets that, he's 71 years old. I think once he gets that, I think he'll step back and look at where he is. If he feels like he's still with a team that's a major contender, he'll keep going. But I think if he gets that record and he wins one more Super Bowl, I think I'm done.
Well, then he can retire as the GOAT, just like Brady.
Yeah, I think that's all he wants. I think he wants Shula's record. He's got 16 wins to go. Could easily be done in 1.5 seasons, or technically one if he pulled in with the right again.
With the right team.
But yeah, I would say if he goes somewhere and things are right and he's got like a nice playoff contending team, talking like 1 season and a half, and he's got it. So I think he's been around a long time. I think he's going to be very careful about where he goes. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of teams that want him. But I'm sure he's also going to be very picky about where he goes, and I think he's going to try to pick the right team that's going to have the most chance. That's looking for a head coach.
Absolutely.
And I think he has a good chance. I think he has a good chance of getting what he wants. He just has to make sure that he goes through this process the right way. Question is, does he also look for a team that gives him full control, like he had in New England? Is that a deal breaker for him? Does he want that dual head coach GM role? Does he not care about that as much, and he'll be okay with being just a coach if he goes to a team that has a good GM? I don't know. That's a little hard to say.
I think the dual role is the only way he gets it.
That might be true too, though. That way he can build the team the way he wants to. I mean, because if you look at the way he's built those teams over the years, yeah, that was kind of a big part of. I mean, he would take wide receivers and other players that no one knew and be like, "Who the fuck is that guy?" And he would turn them into superstars. No, it's true though. He would.
100% true.
I mean, he took nobodies and made them somebody because of just his coaching style and the way he builds the team and his strategy and all those things. And that it's why he is who he is. So it's true too. You're right. I didn't think that you might have to do it the way he wants. So, but time will tell.
Yep.
Yeah, time will tell. But anyway, that's going to be the show for this week. So, guys, thank you for being here tonight with us. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. The team appreciates it. Once again, congratulations to Davidoff, Cigar of the Year 2023 at Smokin Tabacco, Anniversario #1. If there's any still out there, which I'm sure there's still a little bit out there. It was a limited release, but I think there's still probably enough out there. Get your hands on it. It's a fantastic cigar. Make sure you have some time to smoke it, but it's a great cigar. Kevin and Mitchell, great to see you guys here. Mitchell, especially you. I know you don't really get to go on shows much as often right now, so awesome to have you here as well. And we'll see you guys on Wednesday night for another show. All right, take care, guys.